Siege mode still slaps the hardest, and people need to play it more. Recently jumped back into Siege mode due to boredom with stratagems, and it still hits so hard and is possibly the best game mode, especially since the addition to the Flamers. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I do agree. I mean, well, hold on. At the very least, I will agree that Siege mode is a lot more fun with the Pyre Blaster and the Pyre Cannon. I did jump into Siege mode with the Pyre Cannon, and yes, it was very, very fun. That's how I leveled up Artificer into Relic. I just jumped into normal Siege mode, and that gets the job done. Normal gives the absolute power fantasy, wiping out waves of unending enemies, while hard mode is the better challenge and still feels so good. It's a shame that it seems like not a lot of people play, but can't wait to see what they add to it. Alright, yeah, see, that's really what we are aiming to talk about today, is Siege mode's disappointing situation. I agree, Siege mode is very, very fun. Hard Siege mode actually feels pretty good, and eventually we're going to get some conditions for Siege mode to make Siege mode feel even more chaotic. But yeah, to be completely honest, when it comes to battles in this game, I still think Siege mode has the peak of like the intensity and not to mention the scale of the battles. So yeah, Siege mode definitely is a mode that I wish I could play more. Hard mode obviously has its issues. Now yes, when we're talking about Siege mode today, we're going to go from top to bottom to see what is wrong with it, what is broken, and how the devs can fix it or improve the mode. For me, right now, Siege mode is at least hard Siege mode, considering the low-level situation. It's just a pain. I mean, sometimes hard stratagems can become a pain to queue into as well, but recently, it feels like hard stratagems is filtering out a lot of low-level players, and yeah, maybe a lot of low-level players are jumping into Siege mode. However, yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. Sometimes it doesn't even matter your level. Hard stratagems are just a pain, so that's better off set to the side for this conversation. But yeah, Siege mode, however, especially hard Siege mode, I felt like was a lot more reasonable, obviously because lack of conditions. So I can imagine hard Siege mode with conditions are going to be pretty crazy. But yeah, let's see some gripes of Siege mode, because obviously people have been complaining about the current state of Siege mode. This game is unplayable in Siege mode, hard difficulty, due to low levels swarming the matchmaking. As the title says, it takes me an hour to find lobbies with max level prestige players. If devs won't fix this, I'm out. Waste of time. Alright, pretty simple. We have a pretty simple one here. But yeah, dude, you would think a lot of these low-level players who are just grinding hard Siege mode for levels, you would think they would just put it on private. Wouldn't it even be faster that way? Like, so you can circumvent, like, matchmaking as a whole? Like, it would be much faster to just jump on private. It's so weird that they're jumping on hard Siege mode, underleveled. But yeah, apparently all the underleveled players have been going into Siege mode recently. And yeah, you can see that because there's plenty of posts about it, unfortunately. Please do your Siege XP grinding on private, or at least tell people early on you are leaving at wave 5 so they can leave. Other people are not just there to speed up your grind. Totally on board with using Siege mode for efficient grinding, but even if you're pretty low level, 5 waves with all of that money isn't hard to do with bots and a friend. I can't remember the last time I saw a human being go past wave 5. It's breaking the experience of the game mode right now. Yeah, seriously, if you're leaving at wave 5 and you're just leveling up, I don't see why you need to go into a public lobby. I mean, it might be a little bit more fun. Now, as far as leaving around wave 5, I think normal mode isn't too bad, because if someone leaves around wave 5, it's not that big of a deal. In hard mode, it is a big deal. Mostly considering the fact that when people are jumping into hard Siege mode, they're looking to at least push waves. They're looking for like a 2-hour gaming experience, maybe even more. So yeah, dude, honestly, the devs 100% need to figure out how they can circumvent these issues. For one, I think they should allow people to jump back in Siege mode after wave 5. That should be very, very easy for them to do. And then, not to mention, look, here's the thing. I don't want the devs to take out a grind, or I don't want the devs to take out an experience farm if it's efficient. It just doesn't look like people are using it correctly. It looks like people are using the experience farm and then getting in other people's ways because of it. So that's unfortunate. In that case, I honestly think maybe they should level lock Siege mode. It's just because of the fact that everyone actually does enjoy Siege mode. At least it seems like some people are coming from stratagems and they want to, you know, gain that siege experience, but they're having a rough time because of, yeah, essentially people just trying to power level. Siege mode despair. Brothers, I must share a tale of sadness to get off my chest. After recently getting back into the game, I have been trying my utmost to complete Wave 15 on Hard Siege. The past week has been filled with players leaving after Wave 5, and brothers that perhaps should start with normal mode first. Last night, I decided to take another shot at it. I finally was matched with a very solid tactical. Name was something like, okay, you sir are what they call the man. After easily clearing the first 5 waves, to my utter surprise, he wanted to move on to the next sector. Ooh, nice. As I knew it would be a later session, I bargained with my wife that if she did bedtime routine solo for our child, I would repay her with a pair of shoes fit for the Emperor himself. Wow, this guy had to pay for shoes to get some time on the game. I like it. I like it. This is what you call a compromise. And yes, that was a great way that was a great way to deal with that situation. I really hope it was worth it. Let's see how it goes. She agreed. Our third brother left, I must assume for something of the highest importance, leaving us with a bot. I wish they said which wave they left. However, we used our mics and fought hard. We were about done with Wave 13. We had more than enough points saved for a Dreadnought, plus then some for Wave 15. We were facing Tyranids. Oh, okay. Well, dude, here's the thing about Tyranids in late waves. Hazards, man, hazards. Vine mines and spore mines. That's really what you gotta worry about. More of my comfort zone when it comes to Terminus fights. Oh, and grabs. I could see the light, that bumpy helmet within reach. As my confidence soared, the game then froze and disconnected. My hands aching, my wife surely somewhat upset, and fatigue settling in as it was past my bedtime. Very unfortunate. Now, here we have 2 issues. Someone who is spending a lot of time matchmaking because he keeps running into players, leaving at Wave 5. It does seem like he was jumping into hard siege mode, right? Yeah, and he does mention some people were in hard siege mode who should have tried normal first. I think those players are a bit underleveled, maybe. But yeah, ultimately, this is definitely a very heartbreaking experience, and the devs definitely need to keep an eye on siege mode. 100%. Disconnections in this game can seriously kill your motivation to play it. I loaded up again. This time I matched with a fantastic bulwark. Also, shout out to this player. Dreo, if you see this, then a big shout out to you. Okay, shout out to that player. Again, to my shock, he wanted to play past Wave 5. Not to my shock, our third player left. At Wave 5? If both of the players in this story left at Wave 5, yeah, there's a problem. We yet again had a bot. Well, okay, here's another thing. You can't just force people to play a game, right? But yeah, if the players who are leaving at Wave 5 all have something in common, mainly trying to level up, then we have a problem. But if this is just bad luck of this guy queuing up with players who are level 25, and then they just leave after Wave 5 because of whatever reason, that's just bad luck. Okay, this is actually a pretty good story. I like this. 40 minutes later, I find myself on Wave 15, this time against Chaos. Oof. Unfortunately, Halberts are not my strongest, and the run ended in failure. Unfortunate, dude. I wonder if they had the Dreadnought for this. Dang. I'm actually more curious to see what their builds were and everything like this. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's sad. Very bad ending to the story here. I write this morning before leaving for work, tired, hands sore with likely premature carpal tunnel for my too long of a game session. Man, I feel bad for this guy. I almost want to check out the account to see if he ever ended up beating hard siege mode. But yeah, I'm not too sure if he's going to come across this video. And still a pair of shoes to pick up later without a bumpy helmet to show for it. Man, this is so sad. I thank my 2 battle brothers above and pray that one day soon I will have a full team to help achieve my goal. If you read all this, have a fantastic day. Yeah, I mean, dude, honestly, though, I have to be completely transparent when it comes to siege mode. This is a very common experience as far as, man, we got to Wave 15 and we died. When I was playing hard siege mode, I mean, I think it took me about 3 runs. It was like the 3rd hard siege mode run when we got to Wave 15 that we actually beat, and the other two runs were with bots, or at the very least had 1 player, 1 bot, that type of thing. But yeah, once you get a hold of it, you should be fine. However, it seems like the issue is finding a team for hard siege mode. and that's very, very unfortunate. Now, I don't want to make all of this just negative criticism on hard siege mode, or in siege mode in general, to be honest, but actually, I've seen some people have a pretty interesting idea for the next siege map. I hope the next siege map is a bit more of a defensive position. It would be cool if the hordes had to attack along a certain route, and you could try and hold it for as long as possible before it becomes a general free-for-all. I think this is fair. I think this is actually a very good idea. I think the map we have right now feels like a PvP map almost for siege mode. It does, honestly though, it does feel very free-for-all like, as in there's actually a fair amount of room. Not to mention though, you also have to keep in mind, if we're cornered by like something like Hellbrutes or Carnifexes or Neurothropes, that's a pretty bad situation. So we really need some room to try to, you know, roll around corners and get away from some of these enemies. So yeah, at the same time, I do like the fact that, you know, siege mode can be more of a defensive, or at the very least you can find a good position for it and kind of just hunker down for a bit. I like that. I do kind of like that idea for sure. But still, you have to keep in mind enemy spawns and freedom of movement, and, you know, basically just trying to get away from bad situations. But I can't lie, I do like the idea of this. Maybe they can add in something to help us out. I don't know, maybe like a turret or something. But yeah, I talked about traps and everything before. Mostly for me, I like doing the, you know, I like doing the damage. I don't want a trap or an automatic turret to do the damage for me. However, in something like this, I'd be willing to see what they could pull off. This is a good idea. This is a good idea. I do think when it comes to the next siege mode map, we're going to have to see something a little bit different rather than just a change in scenery. I definitely want to see the devs take some creative advantages when it comes to strategy for siege mode. Like, you know, give us a spot where we can kind of like a sniper spot. Yeah, exactly. Give us like a tower the sniper can go up and, you know, snipe some enemies with. That would be cool. However, yeah, you would have to play around the tower, and you would also have to play around zoanthropes, possibly throwing death beams at the tower. I don't know. I just think something like that would be cool, rather than just like, okay, here's some hallways and a room. You know what I mean? Honestly, though, the siege map again does feel pretty good to roam around in. But yeah, I mean, as far as something with a little bit more strategy, I would like to see what the devs could cook up with that. But I'm not too sure if the devs are, you know, interested in that for siege mode, to be completely honest. But if there's anything I'd want the devs to change, I would hope the devs can improve matchmaking somehow in harder difficulties in general, but especially siege mode. Siege would be in a better spot if players wouldn't use it to level weapons for 5 waves just to quit. That's unfortunate. See, for me, when it comes to siege mode leveling, I will jump into, you know, siege mode with a weapon that is either almost leveled or, you know, I need to get through like the green part of the leveling, which is really easy. But I'll stick with that mode. Like I'll go into wave 15 at the very least, even if I'm just leveling a weapon. I mean, that's what normal siege mode is for. You can jump into normal siege mode with an artificer or mastercrafted weapon. If you have a good build, you can definitely make it work. But for hard mode, yeah, that's a bit more tricky. Lower level prestige players were prevented from queuing hard, especially without team perks, until they reach a certain level / prestige. Yeah, for hard difficulties, I really think the devs should do this, man. I really do. Now, as far as hard stratagems, jumping into hard stratagems with lower level players, I've seen less of that. However, I still have seen plenty of it. More than what we should have. Even 2 low level players in hard siege mode, that is more than what it should be. Yeah, it's really hard for me to kind of argue for keeping it the way it is. I really want to see hard mode matchmaking get improved. And through that, the devs have to understand, they put in hard difficulties for players who are properly leveled up. Like, I don't understand why they let low-level players just get filtered like that. That's crazy. I guess at the very least, they want to make sure friends can play together. And yeah, but like, is that worth completely neutering a mode for? I don't know. I don't think it is. However, maybe that's hyperbole. Maybe it's not completely neutering hard siege and hard stratagems. However, it's definitely doing a good job at making it a little bit difficult to matchmake into. So, to be completely honest, I think if you join a game and that player is level 25 and they invited you, sure, you're allowed to jump into hard stratagems. But if you're random queuing and you aren't, you know, invited into a game or anything, or you're not joining a host who's level 25, then you probably shouldn't be able to play hard stratagems. The fact that the devs really just let random low-level players jump into hard stratagems is crazy. That's that's unfortunate and probably shouldn't be the case. There were better rewards besides cosmetics nobody uses. Whoa. Okay, first of all, I am growing on the hard mode helmet. I don't think it's cooler than the survivor helmet. The survivor helmet is the scarred helmet you get from beating lethal. However, I do think the studded helmet, you know, it's actually kind of growing on me a little bit. And then not to mention, I do think the cosmetics that are worth getting from siege mode is the colored skins for like the bolt rifles and stuff. That's also really cool. We can get colored skins from Melta and plasmas also, but yeah, I think they're fine. I think they're fine. Heroic cosmetics are far superior. Well, yeah, they are. And armory data XP credits that max prestige players have no need for. Yeah, at this point, yeah, to be honest, I think I pretty much used my data on everything I need to. I think I have like the Melta to level up and the Pyreblaster to level up and maybe the Oculus or the Instigator, one of those, but everything else is leveled up. If I want to play some of the hardest content the game has to offer, I don't want to be forced to also backpack 2 incompetent players to victory because they feel like they shouldn't have to learn to play in lower difficulties beforehand. Yeah, see, this is the thing. They should really make it so you need to beat normal siege mode at wave 15, probably, right? If they don't do the level lock. It should be one of those, 100%. There should be no reason for me or anyone else who has max level characters to be forced to drag dead weight because they just want cosmetics without wanting to actually earn them by playing the game and getting familiar with their character. Not to mention, dude, what really bugs me about this is players will rather have a miserable experience as long as they don't need to put effort into it. I just don't want to queue with those type of players, bro. I don't want to play with players like that. It's like, dude, if you're at least joining the game, at least try. But if you're like super low level and you died 6 times before wave 5, yeah, at that point it's safe to say you're just not putting in any effort and you just want to carry. I don't understand why we should cater to players like that, to be completely honest. I'm not too worried about the power leveling. I think there should be a fair amount of ways to level up your weapons and everything. Not to mention, siege mode, regardless, even if they do level lock hard siege mode, normal siege mode is still going to be great for leveling your weapons. Yeah, I think... sheesh. All right. Honestly, as for my opinion in this situation, after reading all of this, I really think the devs need to save siege mode, and what is happening right now effectively breaks matchmaking for a lot of players, at the very least for solo queuers. So yeah, they should level lock hard siege mode. They should I just don't get it. Like, if they ended up taking out all experience from all siege mode, yeah, then I think it would be a little bit of an overreaction, 100%. But the fact that you can still level your weapons in normal siege mode, there's practically no reason why you need to jump into hard siege mode. And then here's the other thing. They can still jump into hard siege mode in a private lobby, but they choose not to. They choose to get in other players' ways. So I just don't understand why the devs need to cater to that type of player. Just, you know, if it's in private mode, sure, jump into hard siege mode. If it's in public, no, you have to be level 25. Something like that, right? I think that should be fair for everyone. But yeah, honestly, as you guys saw with the amount of posts I've read, it definitely feels like siege mode is effectively a little bit broken right now, and that is very unfortunate. So I just hope the devs get to it eventually. You know, obviously, siege mode will get another update, it will get another map, it will get conditions, it will be more fun. Siege mode right now is fun. It just feels like there's a lot of people kind of taking advantage of the benefits from it. And maybe there shouldn't, maybe that shouldn't be the case, because at the very least, I do think I prioritize a functioning siege mode over an experience farm that is just like a little bit better than other ways to farm experience, you know. But nah, I don't know. It just feels very misplaced, to be completely honest. The hard siege mode should be for end game builds. it shouldn't be a farming simulator. You know what I mean? Ah, sheesh. Ah, sheesh. Well, we will see what the devs decide to do. But for now, that is the unfortunate situation for Siege Mode. We broke it down. Hopefully you can find a good squad for it. Maybe one day we can, you know, come together as a community and jump into Siege Mode and get some runs in or something. But for now, I'm still playing a lot of stratagems. Stratagems are still pretty fun. I do get the itch to play Siege Mode here and there, though. So, yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. And thanks for watching.